Good morning and welcome. I am Brenda Dewberry and I will serve as your facilitator for today. Before we begin, we would like to make sure that you put your name in the chat to be eligible to receive a $50 gift card. You want to do that now. Certificates of attendance will be provided to anyone who would like. Please submit your name to Barbara Turpin if you would like a certificate. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our facilitator for today. Today's topic is health and nutrition. This will serve to help caregivers and kinship care providers to support a healthy lifestyle for themselves and their children. Our presenter is Erika Hewlett, who is a dietitian for the Center for Healthy Weight and Nutrition at Nationwide Children's Hospital. She is a graduate of The Ohio State University in 2010, where she finished and started her career at Nationwide Children's Hospital. For the past 11 years, her focus has been on pediatric obesity. She loves working with children and her families, promoting health and nutrition. At this time, please welcome Ms. Hewlett. Ms. Hewlett?
Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so I can share my slides. All right. Can everybody see that? I'm hoping. Okay. All right. So as mentioned, my name is Erika Hewlett. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist at Nationwide Children's Center for Healthy Weight and Nutrition. And today's focus is going to be talking about pediatric overweight and obesity, and then also like nutrition recommendations, and some nutrition things that you could apply at home as well. So I do want to go over a little bit. I do not have any financial disclosures or conflicts of interest. So I'm supposed to make sure I say that every time before I present. Just a little bit about me. I am a wife and a mother of 4 kids. We are a blended family. So my husband and I met and each had a daughter. And then we had those other 2 young ones there. In my free time, I really enjoy hiking and being outdoors. And I love this fall weather as it's getting a little bit cooler. The presentation today, I am going to just kind of go into what defines overweight and obesity in children. Talk about complications of overweight and obesity, so how that can impact our overall body and systems. Educate on weight bias and weight stigma and ways to prevent this. So I don't know if anyone's heard of those terms or anything, but we'll talk a little bit about that in the healthcare setting and how that can impact visits sometimes. And we'll highlight the importance of prevention. For everyone, regardless of weight, size, health status. That's what I'm really going to talk more about, like nutrition recommendations and things to really just help everyone achieve a healthier lifestyle. As I am going through this, if you guys want to unmute and ask questions at any point, I would love that. I want this to be as interactive as possible. So feel free to interrupt and ask questions throughout, and then I'll also allow some time for questions at the end. Okay. So some of you guys might be asking, what is the Center for Healthy Weight and Nutrition? So we are a clinic that is designed to see children ages 2 years to basically we'll see up to age 26. And then at that point, they definitely have to be transitioned to more of an adult provider. Criteria to come to our clinic is these children do have to have a BMI greater than the 95th percentile, and we'll look at a growth chart here in a minute so you kind of know what I'm talking about when I say that. But that is what defines a child as having obesity, is a BMI greater than the 95th percentile. A lot of times providers will refer to our clinic, so like primary care providers, GI docs, endocrinology docs. So a lot of different disciplines will refer, or a parent or caregiver can call our clinic and self-refer if they have concerns themselves for their child or whoever they're taking care of. Um, when you do come to our clinic, we are a multidisciplinary team. So you'll see there in the red, our team consists of medical providers. So we have doctors and nurse practitioners, and both have the same role in our clinic. They're the ones that over here on the left, they follow the medical facts. So they'll look at labs and just make sure, like any other diseases or conditions that we may have challenges with at that time, to be able to address those. We have social worker and a psychologist on staff, and they're the ones that help with feelings and behavior. They also help with resources. So they can see patients as needed as well. And then we have physical therapists who work with fitness and activity. So, are we having any challenges moving our bodies? Are we having pain? What may be some barriers to more activity, and trying to help work through all of those things. And then we have registered dietitians like myself, and we're the ones who talk like food nutrition. So how can the foods that we eat impact our health? In particular, some of those chronic diseases, which we'll talk about here in a minute. We have different locations throughout the Columbus area. So our main clinic is downtown, and that's at the Livingston Ambulatory Center, which is kind of on the corner of Grant and Livingston Avenue. And that one, we hold clinics there 5 days a week. We also have a Hilliard clinic, which is in the Hilliard close to home, which is out on All Seasons Road. And that one, we are only there on Wednesdays. And then we have a Westerville clinic, which is held at the Westerville Surgery Center, which is up near like the close to home on Cleveland and County Line Road. And there we are there 1 day a week, so every Monday. Our medical clinic is again where we see, all the kids ages 2 on up, and we focus on like behavior modifications. We can use specific medical diets if necessary. There's medications available as needed, but we really try to focus on lifestyle interventions. And then we do, as part of our clinic, 1.5 days a week, we hold a bariatric clinic. So I'm not going to talk too much about our bariatric clinic today, but it is a specialized clinic. And if you'll see off to the right here, you do have to have a little bit more criteria to come to that clinic. So a BMI greater than 35, and then having some kind of comorbidity with that, or a BMI greater than 40. And then in this clinic, it's very specialized. You meet monthly, in anticipation of getting bariatric surgery. Then let's,
Erika,
yeah,
hi, this is Barb.
hi.
I know, your focus is on Children's Hospital here in Columbus, but are you aware of any other of the other children's hospitals in throughout the state that also offer this weight and nutrition management?
Yes. So University of Akron also has a healthy weight clinic, and they do bariatric surgery there as well. Dayton Children's Hospital. They have a healthy weight clinic. They don't have a bariatric clinic, but they do have a healthy weight nutrition clinic. And University or Cincinnati Children's, I'm sorry, I keep saying university, but Cincinnati Children's Hospital as well. Those are kind of the main ones in the area that offer these clinics.
Okay, thank you. I think one of our caregivers responded that Donna Adicott says Metro Health Cleveland also has a program.
Good. I'm sure there's a lot more out there that I don't even know about, because I think that this is becoming a clinic that a lot of hospitals are opening and wanting to specialize in. So that's great. Anyone else know of any others? All right, we'll just put it in the chat box if anyone knows of any others. Thank you for the question. Okay, I'm gonna continue on here. Okay. Oops, I think I might have gone back a little too far. Oh, nope, I'm right there. Okay. All right. So, what is kind of the prevalence of obesity in the United States? About 19.3% have obesity, and about 35.6% of the population has overweight and obesity. Severe obesity increased 61% since 2000, so it's up to 7.6%, and that would be kind of like what I talked about, like that BMI being greater than 40. So what happened during the pandemic, based on like electronic health record based studies, so just kind of going back through medical records, it does look like there's a 2 to 6% increase in our rates of obesity during the pandemic. So where does Ohio and Franklin County stand? Ohio, the rate for obesity is 17.2%. For overweight and obesity, it's like 29%. And then for Franklin County, for overweight and obesity, we're at about 31% of our population. So as I mentioned earlier, I was talking about like having to have that BMI greater than the 95th percentile. So anytime you take a child into the primary care doctor, they're going to obtain a height, they're going to obtain a weight. And then based on those two measurements, as well as their gender, so whether boy or girl, because the growth charts are a little different for each gender, they can plot the BMI. The BMI stands for body mass index. Okay, so it looks at like the rate of growth, like weight for height. Right, so during different transitional periods in life, like when kids are going to undergo puberty or, they're going to have a growth spurt, you'll often see like a little bit of weight, accumulate, and then you see a spurt in the height go up. So those are kind of normal trends, and so the growth curve takes that into account. But then anytime a child is above, and that's the very highest mark here, that's the 95th percentile. And so that is what would define obesity in children. You can see here in the yellow, the overweight is the 85th. So it's this line up until the 95th percentile. And then anything below that 85th percentile is considered normal until you get down to the 5th percentile, and then that's underweight. What's most important when looking at these graphs, and we talk to providers about this a lot, is there is a 95th percentile and a 5th percentile for a reason. It's because kids grow differently. We just like to see that kids are trending well. So if your kid started at the 95th percentile and they're just continuing at the 95th percentile, that's probably their growth pattern, and that would be considered normal. If your child started at the 5th percentile and continued on the 5th percentile, again, probably their growth pattern, and that's probably normal for them. It's when you see a lot of like different variations throughout. So like maybe they're going up or maybe they're coming down on the growth chart and they're not following their usual trend. That's when like medical providers may be a little concerned. So again, it's not that if your child is at one place or the other, that it's bad or, should be worrisome. It's just really making sure that they're following their growth pattern and not going too far above or below where they typically are. So I always like to make sure, medical providers and everyone know this. Obesity is diagnosed using objective measures and percentiles. It is not diagnosed by looking at a child. Childhood obesity is very multifactorial and is affected by more than just what people think. So in that gray circle, you say it's like food and activity, right? And most people think, oh, there's just an imbalance of that. We just need to exercise more and eat less. But it's actually much more complex than that. There are genetic factors like DNA. So, we are finding and able to identify some genes that carry obesity with them. And so they are looking at some medications that kind of could help that genetic component of obesity. There's the school or education. Our kids are away from us most hours of the day, 8, sometimes 9, maybe even more if you're a working parent. And so they are getting food and nutrition and, activity and maybe experiencing like bullying and some things at school or other places outside of the home. There's mental health. There's a lot of connection between our gut and our brain. So, looking at if we're struggling with mental health, that could also be impacting our weight. Environment, just in general, I kind of talked about that a little bit with education or like kids being in childcare elsewhere with other family members, childcare, daycare, all of that. There's biology and hormones. So hormones, especially around puberty and stuff, can also have a big impact. And then there's sleep. I don't know if you guys experience this, like you saw in my picture. I have 2 older teens as well, where they're 20 and 18 now, but they are always on their screens. And I feel like sleep is really impacted by always having that phone in front of you. So if we're not getting adequate sleep, or, we're having trouble sleeping, or we're waking up in the night, things like that, that then affects our hormones and hunger and fullness throughout the day. So that can also play a big impact. Causes of obesity, again, very multifactorial. There can be medical things that could result in it, like hypothyroidism, Cushing disease, some kind of medications that your child may be placed on could put them at increased risk. And then hypothalamic obesity, which really occurs if there's any like trauma to the brain or surgeries. Genetic syndromes, Down syndrome, Prader-Willi, Bardet-Biedl, Cohen syndrome, and Alström syndrome are syndromes that are often associated with obesity. Again, the multifactorial, and then caregiver feeding practices, environment, and other psychological factors as well all play a role. Complications. So we are starting to see complications in kids. I just saw this question in here. So good question. So the question in here, and how much of an impact does metformin really have with controlling weight gain? That's a great question. So metformin is commonly used to help control weight gain and appetite. It typically, metformin will help to stop weight gain, sometimes promote a little bit of weight loss. It's not like a weight loss medication, but it can be very effective. And it's one medication that we can use at a younger age too. So it tends to be a little more effective in the pediatric setting as well. It doesn't work for everyone, and there are a couple other medications that are used that can be effective as well. Okay. Complications of childhood obesity. So we are seeing conditions like chronic conditions in kids that we once thought were really only a disease of adults. But with the chronic condition of obesity, we have a lot of inflammation in the body. This inflammation can result in things like sleep apnea. So waking up in the night, having a hard time breathing, fatty liver, sometimes kidney disease, type 2 diabetes, some heart disease, or like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglycerides. It can also cause just like a lot of pain and discomfort with movement. So, you might have knee pain, ankle pain, hip pain, pain in your feet. There's conditions with like reproductive um, fertility type things called PCOS, which can be pretty common in the female populations, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so it can disrupt kind of your menstrual cycle. And then acid reflux can be another one. So, and then also some of the mental health stuff like depression, anxiety, poor self-esteem, headaches, things like that can also be impacted. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about weight bias and weight stigma. So weight bias are negative attitudes and beliefs about other people because of weight. Okay, like an implicit weight bias is automatic, unconscious. So you already have this thought or belief about somebody and you don't even really realize it. Actually, Harvard has a really good implicit bias like survey that you can take. If you just type in like Harvard implicit bias survey or test, you can go through and you can kind of see what your implicit biases are. Everybody has them, okay? Some people are like, well, I don't have implicit bias because you're unconscious about it. You're not aware of it, but it is there. Explicit is where you're more conscious or self-reported. So, so those are the two weight biases. And then weight stigma are actions against people with obesity. And this can really lead to like negative effects like exclusion, marginalization, disparities in healthcare and treatment. So like weight stigma would be like if somebody came in and, they were trying to tell their doctor something wrong with them, but like all the doctor wanted to focus on was like their weight. That can have a really negative impact on that person and then that visit. So something that we're just really being mindful of in the healthcare setting. And there's a lot of training on this for providers. And there's even like a group of providers, they call themselves size inclusive or weight inclusive. So they provide a size inclusive care, which means they really don't address the weight. They're not focusing on the number. They're not creating like weight loss goals and targets, which I would say at our center is the same. We never give like a weight loss target or weight loss goal. And so if you are having concerns with one of your providers really maybe having weight bias or weight stigma, you can always go on and look for like size inclusive care providers in the area, and kind of see if there's some around you that may not focus so much on the weight at visits if that's a concern. Weight bias internalization. So this applies negative weight stereotypes to themselves. Okay, so when people experience this weight bias and weight stigma, they often feel like that's what identifies them. They disparage themselves because of their weight. Okay, and so this is associated with like a higher BMI. Sometimes this could lead to like binge eating or emotional eating, or really just a poor quality of life. So again, this was kind of what I had talked about. Here's a slide. It's like, doctor, I've been impaled. And then this says, well, maybe you'd feel better if you lose some weight, right? So providers that have this weight bias and stigma do tend to spend less time in the room. There's variations in documentation, and they're frustrated, futile, defeated, and then the patient is perceived as being non-compliant or lacking self-control, having poor hygiene, less intelligent, things like that. And so this is not a good situation. And really, like I say, something that we in the healthcare field are really trying to do a lot of education around, to, kind of make all settings a size inclusive environment. So ways to reduce bias. So how do we do this? We provide education on it, like I'm doing now, like what is weight bias? What is weight stigma? Sometimes people just aren't even aware, right? So bringing awareness to it, exposure, practicing like how can we change our language at visits? What can we do differently? Pace. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit, but you do have to slow down. Have to slow down, take your time, really think about everything, show respect, and then ask permission. So the slide right here, like the 5 A's for approaching a family, like in a visit, a provider should ask permission to discuss concerns. They should advise about risks and benefits and also advise on your progress, if there have been some changes in lab values or things like that. Assess readiness for change or barriers. At different points in our life, we've all gone through this with, different things, but like, are we really ready to make that change, right? Like sometimes it's like, okay, do I really want to start going to the gym? Am I ready for that? Am I just thinking about it? Um, and then what are some barriers to getting to the gym, right? That's something I'm thinking about and I want to do. Do I have the transportation to get there? Do I have the money to pay the gym membership? Those types of things could be some barriers to actually following through with a goal that you want. And then assist and agree on a plan. So it should be collaborative. You should be involved in setting that goal, with your provider. And then arrange a follow-up. We all do much better when we have someone checking in on us, that accountability. So make sure that we're following up to see how we're doing, what's going well, what's been a challenge, things like that. Any questions on like the center, weight bias, weight stigma, anything like that before I transition into like nutrition? Okay. Not seeing anything in the chat. And again, feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. I'm going to go ahead and start talking a little bit about nutrition here, since that is my field of study, what I went to school for. So I'm going to review evidence-based messages for prevention. And this is prevention of overweight, obesity, but also prevention of disease. We'll talk a little bit about My Plate. So this is considered like the gold standard of nutrition. So for many of us on here, including myself, we might all remember the food pyramid. That was like the little triangle with like the different food groups. This has replaced the food pyramid. We'll learn about added sugars, and ways that we can change added sugars for more nutrient dense choices. So the American diet has a lot of sugar in it. And why so much sugar? Because it tastes good. And we'll buy things that have a lot of sugar because they taste good. So kind of learning about label reading and how to find foods that may have less sugar. We'll take a look at that today. And then discuss resources and toolkits. Actually, this one I should have taken off. my objectives, this one was for, I did a school setting and I gave some like resources for school teachers, but I did not include that in today's session. If anybody is interested in that, I can email some resources and websites that maybe everybody could mail out if you guys want some things to do at home. So prevention, these are the 10 evidence-based messages for prevention. So it goes back to like number 1 is support breastfeeding. Number 2, limit sugar sweetened beverages. This sugar sweetened beverages like sweet teas, juice, pop, they are the number 1 contributor of sugar in our diet. Number 3, eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. You'll see here on a slide I forget what the percent is off the top of my head, but a lot of children do not meet that recommendation. A lot of adults don't meet that recommendation. Sometimes I find myself counting, did I have 5 fruits and vegetables today? It is kind of a lot. At least 60 minutes of moderate intensity a day, less than 2 hours a day of screen time. That's really hard to do these days with our kiddos because even like school stuff, so much school learning is done on a screen as well. Here's a big one that I think often goes missed, but no TV in the bedroom. Really try to not have a television in the kids' bedroom. Again, that screen time, it'll keep them awake. It's often a way that kids can go to like seclude themselves too. So less socialization, less time spent with the family when they have a TV in their bedroom. Nutritious breakfast daily. I'll talk about breakfast, but I'm sure everyone at some point in their life has heard breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I'm seeing, are the water drops a better option? Oh, yes. So like the sugar-free drops like a Mio or something like that. Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a minute, but typically we do encourage those for some flavor as opposed to the regular sugar. But I'll go more into detail on that in just a moment. Regular family meals. Okay, so I talked about like even with the TV, how kids will go off to their room to just watch TV. Making sure that we have regular meals together as a family helps so much with kids' mental health. So being able to talk about their day, talk about any struggles they had during the day. What were some great points? What do you want to share that was so great about your day? That can really help mental health. There's also been a lot of studies that show that like families or, caregivers that eat meals together, the kids are less likely to engage in risky behaviors like drugs and alcohol and things like that. So it's a really important time to try to all be together and connect. Another one, infrequent fast food. So definitely lessening fast food, which can be really hard because every corner you pass has like 4 fast food restaurants, right? So they make it really convenient, especially with the busy schedules that we have these days with kids, where they're going from activity to activity or school's getting out and you're getting home from work and it's late and it's like, what am I going to cook? I don't know. Let's just go ahead and pick something up. But fast food is a lot of fried, saturated fat, salty foods, not a lot of nutritional value, which is contributing to some of the health conditions that we're seeing in kids. And then limiting portion size. So that will come back to the My Plate here in a minute when we talk about portion sizes and the amount of foods that it should eat. All right, so here it is. I don't know if anyone's seen this or if this is new for some of you, but the diagram right there is the My Plate. You can see when looking at the My Plate that there are 5 food groups that we want to try to have at every meal. So those food groups are fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy. Now, we are not perfect, and we are not always going to have all 5 food groups at a meal, and that's okay. But when you are planning a meal, feeding your children, feeding your families, try to get at least 3 different food groups at a meal. And that's how you can really optimize nutrition to make sure that you have a balance, to make sure that our growing kids are getting the variety of nutrients that they need to help support their growth and health. So in particular, one of those food groups, I'd say try to make a fruit or vegetable. Try to put a fruit or vegetable on the plate at every meal. Does it have to be raw, fresh, organic? Absolutely not. It could be applesauce. It could be a canned fruit. It could be a frozen fruit that you microwave for a little bit or offer it frozen. There's many options. Just trying to get a fruit or vegetable on the plate. They have so many vitamins and minerals. They have a really important nutrient called fiber, which fiber I say is like the roto-rooter of our bodies. So it goes in and it binds with things that we don't want to keep inside our bodies. So like cholesterol, lipids, things like that. It binds with it, and then it essentially brings it out in your poop. So it helps you go to the bathroom more regularly too. So if kids are struggling with constipation or anything, one thing I say, increase that fiber. Try to get more fruits and vegetables. With the grains or the starches, this tends to be the food that we and our kids love, right? It's the pasta, the rice, the potatoes, the corn, the peas, the chips, the crackers, the cereal. What else? The ramen noodles, the mac and cheese, pizza, like pizza crust. So this one we tend to usually have at a meal. And the important thing with this one is I say, try to keep the amount that you have to your fist size total. All right. So it's your fist for you guys, the kids' fist for them. This is the food group that when we eat it and digest it, it gets turned into sugar. Too much sugar at one time can lead to weight gain, so could result in overweight or obesity. It also can increase risk of diabetes, heart disease, fatty liver. So trying to keep it to the fist size total. Protein and dairy, both of these food groups have some kind of protein in them. So our protein food group is going to be like any kind of meat, like beef, chicken, pork, anything. It's going to be fish, eggs, nuts or nut butters like a peanut butter, beans like kidney beans, black beans, any kind of seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, and then also like your plant-based proteins like an edamame or a soy or a tofu or a tempeh. And then with our dairy, it's like milk, yogurt, and cheese. Protein is a very, very important nutrient to have when you eat, and you should have something with protein every time you eat, so snacks and meals, because it takes your body the longest to digest. So this is what helps you and kids feel fuller for longer. Without protein, we could eat, digest our food, and about 30 minutes to an hour later, still be hungry. So an example, like, kids come home from school and oftentimes they want like chips, or like ramen noodles or something. Those are some common snacks I hear. So they might go get those chips or ramen noodles. Well, those are in the grains group. And then that's all they have is that. And so then they'll eat it, they'll digest it, like 30 minutes to an hour later, they're back in the kitchen again, hungry again, right? And you're probably thinking, did you just eat? Right? Like, how could you still be hungry? You just ate. But they didn't have that protein to help them feel full. So even, with chips, I would say try to have like your fist size of chip, add a cheese stick with it. Have some rolled up deli meat with cheese, or just deli meat in general with it. Maybe hard boiled egg or two. Maybe you make like a bean dip and they have like tortilla chips and they could dip it in like a bean or cheese kind of mix to give them that protein. So try to think of ways to get that protein in. With ramen noodles, I always say like 1 package of ramen noodles, the serving size is only a half a package. So trying to stick to just a half a package of ramen noodles, which ends up being about the fist size. Add eggs to it. Add some canned chicken or canned tuna, or add some leftover meat from the night before, or deli meat, something like that to give it that protein. And then when you think about the plate, we've got the, 3 to 5 food groups on there. We're working on the portion sizes. You can see we want like half the plate to be fruits and vegetables. So I always kind of say, think of like the main meal as the fruit or vegetables, which is not always a favorite of all the kids. So I know it's not always a reality or realistic, but at least trying to get that fruit and vegetable on the plate. And then, if your child or you, if you eat your whole plate and you still feel hungry, that's okay. Give yourself 20 minutes. Try and wait 20 minutes before you go back for more. It takes 20 minutes for your stomach to tell your brain that you've eaten and that you're full. After 20 minutes, you still feel hungry, give yourself permission to go back for more. I say just try to go back for more of the protein, the fruit, or the vegetable. Try not to go back for more of that grains group. So try not to go back for more of the mac and cheese or the rice or any kind of pasta, the potatoes, the mashed potatoes, things like that. Again, that's that food group that gets turned into sugar in our bodies. All right, so I just went over that again already on the last page. Sorry, here are the guide off to the side. Here is a guide for how much of each food group to have. So I mentioned with the grains and starches, we want to keep it to that fist size. You can see with our fruits and vegetables, we want 2 fist size, or again, half the plate. For protein, we want that palm of hand. If it's a high fat protein, like peanut butter, you just want it to be about the thumb size. And then fats and added sugars. So like if you're doing butter or ghee or some kind of fatty thing, just like your fingertip size. Okay. We like to use the hand because the hand goes with you everywhere, right? We don't always have like a deck of cards or a tennis ball or, a measuring cup with us, but we always have our hand. Up here on the top left too, you can see this is just another picture of the My Plate, but you'll see the little dotted line on there. And that shows us a 7-inch plate. So one of the big things that can help with portion sizes, if that's something you or children struggle with, is using a smaller plate size, especially when we're thinking about using the fist and the hand for portion control. And we're thinking of like a 5 or a 6-year-old, right? Like a young kid. We're like, well, if I try to put the amount of food that they should eat on a plate my size, they might feel a little deprived, like they're not getting enough. So using smaller plates can be really helpful with portion control. And then the rainbow. I get asked often, is it okay to have bananas? Is pineapple okay to eat? What about like sweet potatoes and things like that? So I always tell families, especially with growing kids, there is no bad fruit or vegetable. They're all good. So I always just say eat the rainbow. Try to get a variety of colors. So our red fruits and vegetables are going to keep your heart strong. Our orange fruits and vegetables protect your eyes, give you healthy eyes. Our yellow fruits and vegetables boost your immune system. So really good this time of year. Our green provides strength for your teeth and for your bones. They tend to have a little bit of calcium in them. Blue and purple help your memory, help improve mineral absorption. And then our whites help to lower blood pressure and fight against disease. So you can see they're all good. All the colors are good. So just trying to eat more of them. Here's the statistic that less than 50% of children consume enough fruits and less than 12% consume enough vegetables. So you can definitely see that our kids are lacking in their fruit and vegetable intake. So you at home and you being around with the kids is what's going to have the biggest impact. And it's important that kids also see you eating the foods, right? If you're not eating the foods, but expecting them to eat the foods, they're not really getting that role modeling. So trying to serve foods that you will also eat. Or if you're not a big vegetable eater, start small with them. Like, hey, let's pick out a vegetable this week to try. Let's try cauliflower. Look up a recipe on how you might want to prepare the cauliflower and give it a try together. Let them see you trying new foods. Here are some activities that you can do, and these come from like the resources that I had provided some of the teachers. It's like this team nutrition is one that is used a lot in schools. And so I don't know if you guys have seen any of these come home with kids, but essentially you're gonna, like, the activity is to be a food critic. They have to choose a fruit or vegetable. They have to draw the food there, find a recipe to try it with, and then they rate it. How did it look visually? What did it smell like? Did you like the smell? Did you not like the smell? How about the taste? What did you think of the taste and the texture? So this is something that you can do along with the kids as well, but it just kind of makes trying a new food a little more fun. Okay. And then I said breakfast, the most important meal of the day. We do want to try to break the fast, right? So the idea is we're going all night without eating and we wake up in the morning and we want to jumpstart our metabolism. Okay. So we want to get up, and we say breakfast is eaten within 2 hours of waking up. Okay. It's not like you have to roll out of bed and eat right away, but within 2 hours of waking up is a good time. They find that kids who eat breakfast tend to be more active throughout the day because they tend to not come home from school so tired or feel tired in the afternoon, because they've provided their body with energy and nutrients to help them keep going. It can also be a mood and energy booster. So it can wake you up, keep you alert, like it improves concentration at school, memory, attention span, so kids, can sit and focus and concentrate a little bit more during their day when they do eat breakfast. After breakfast, we say regular meals. So kids should be eating every 3 to 4 hours. Young kids, like toddlers, about every 2 to 3 hours. Just because their stomachs are smaller, they can only eat smaller amounts, so they need to eat more often. So, if you're really struggling with this, it's good to kind of keep a meal and snack schedule at home. Like, we're going to have breakfast around this time, lunch around this time, afternoon snack at this time, dinner at this time. This one I don't always love, but it is kind of the recommendation. Limit snacks to under 200 calories. I don't necessarily promote calorie counting, but like I had mentioned earlier, that protein, making sure that you have that protein with that high fiber or grain or carbohydrate food. Okay, because without that protein, they're going to be wanting to eat more frequently. They're going to have more cravings. It's going to be harder to keep kids out of the kitchen. And then again, like we had talked about with one of those prevention tools, trying to eat together, even snacks. But anytime you can eat together, or at least eat in a common space, so we're not eating in our bedrooms or like the living room with the TV on, like trying to eliminate distractions and talk more at meals can be really beneficial for our children. So examples of some balanced breakfasts. Again, we talked about that protein. So you can see here, it could be scrambled eggs. It could be yogurt, a cheese stick, an egg, cheese cubes, peanut butter, milk, nuts, or like a trail mix, and cottage cheese. And then pairing those with some kind of, we prefer like a high fiber. So, you'll see a lot of fruit options on here, right? Trying to get more fruits and vegetables in the day. We even on that piece of toast there have a vegetable, although some may argue it's a fruit, but you've got that avocado on there. And then, or whole grain. So trying to do like a whole grain waffle. whole grain cereal like Cheerios, granola, whole wheat bread, things like that. If you need some like on the go balanced breakfast options, you can make overnight oats. So you just put those in the refrigerator or just have like a thing of yogurt that you just pull out. Here's a Carnation Breakfast Essential Light Start. It's like a vanilla or chocolate flavor packet that you could add to milk. Piece of fruit and cheese stick on your way out the door. Keep it super simple. Overnight parfait, same kind of concept of oats, except you use yogurt. Jimmy Dean Delights, so you could do breakfast sandwiches. We just say like not the red box, the tan box. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute, but you microwave it for like a minute and a half, take it on the go. These drinkable yogurts with some fruit are another good option. Examples of balanced snacks. So right here is a ranch dip. And this ranch dip is special because it's made with yogurt. So if you get like a plain yogurt or a plain Greek yogurt, like a tub of it, and then you take a ranch seasoning packet and you mix it all together, that can be a really good dip for like vegetables. You could put like some crackers or pretzels on there as well. But then that makes it high in protein because it's a yogurt, high in calcium and vitamin D, so good for their teeth and bones. And then it will be more filling than just like a shelf ranch that you would use. Apples and peanut butter, grapes and cheese, hummus is another great dip option. Celery with peanut butter, even putting like the raisins or little chocolate chips on there for like ants on a log. Cottage cheese, the fruit, cheese sticks. So a lot of these are kind of similar to the breakfast options. And I always like to say, you don't have to have breakfast food at breakfast. You can have lunch or dinner foods then. And same with snacks. If you want some breakfast foods at snacks, that's okay as well. Hard-boiled eggs are another great option for that after school time. All right, and then limiting sugar sweetened beverages. So the American Heart Association has put out the recommendation that kids ages 2 to 18 should have less than 25 grams of sugar, or that's less than 6 teaspoons of added sugar. Okay, so like if we look at like a can of pop, right, that might have a lot of times there's like 40-ish. We'll just say there's 40 grams of sugar in a can of pop. If you divide 40 by 4, that's how many teaspoons it is. So one can of pop, 40 grams of sugar divided by 4 means that it has 10 teaspoons of sugar in it. So even one can of pop exceeds the recommendation from the American Heart Association. We definitely recommend water first for thirst, right? But somebody had mentioned about using like those sugar-free flavorings that you can add to water, and that is okay. Those are okay to use on occasion. We just really want to try to encourage more water. You can also try fruit, like putting fruit in the water. So some water bottles will have like a little fruit filler, so you could put like strawberries and apples and pineapple in one of those, and then that kind of helps to flavor the water as well. So those are a couple alternatives to like a sugary drink. Low fat milk, like a 1% or skim milk, is also important for kids. And that does not have added sugar. You might see that it has sugar in it, but it does not have added sugar. So when I'm talking about what's the difference between sugar and added sugar, right? So added sugar is what is added to the food for sweetness and for taste, okay? Total sugar includes sugar that baby naturally found in that food. So for example, like yogurts and our milks, our dairy foods have a natural sugar called lactose. So there's going to be sugar in there, and that lactose is going to be counted in the total sugars. but it is not counted in the added sugars because it was not added to the product. It was part of the product. So I hope that makes sense. Even like with applesauces, right? So fruit has a natural sugar called fructose, okay? And so when you look at an applesauce, it will say total sugars, maybe like, I don't know, 10 grams of sugar. But then you could look to see if there's added sugars on it, and that would be added for sweetness. A lot of like the flavored ones, like cinnamon or peach or strawberry, they have added sugars in them. So just be mindful of that. And it is a requirement now by law that that nutrition labels on products specify total sugars versus added sugars. Okay, so you will always be able to find the added sugars. So hopefully this is helping you to see where to find those on the label. So the number 1 is the total sugars, the number 2 is the added. All right, and like some things that we do like in clinic or when we like host events and things is we'll do this like think your drink activity, and we actually will have kids or parents or caregivers, whoever, guess how much sugar they think is in each act. And then we tell them the results. So you can see down here, I mean, we did put like total sugars on this one in particular, but milk itself has, like white milk has no added sugar, but everything else on there has added sugars, with the highest 2 being the Pops, the Pepsi and the Sunkist. So I told you those have around that 10 teaspoons of sugar, which exceeds the recommendation, as well as Capri Suns though. Capri Suns have about 8 teaspoons. Juices, like an Ocean Spray has almost 8, 7.75 teaspoons. Chocolate milk has 6 teaspoons, so that would be, you know, like the added sugar limit that would be recommended. And then Gatorade has like 8, almost 9 as well. So being mindful of that. One packet or information sheet that we give out in clinic a lot is the stoplight picks packet. What I really, really like about this is it's not saying like foods are bad or good. Like one thing we always want to avoid when talking about foods is labeling foods as good or bad. Okay, there are no good or bad foods. There are some foods that give us more energy and long-lasting energy, and there are some foods that we eat them and we might feel hungry again soon, or we might feel tired. There's foods that give us a lot of vitamins and minerals and nutrients to help our eyes, our heart, our skin, our hair, all of that. And then there's foods that, you know, they taste good, but they're not really going to help me be healthy. And so we talk about that using the stoplight picks packet. So you think of a stoplight, green means go, yellow means slow down, and red means stop. Okay, so on our green foods here for like frozen meals, you know, these would be some frozen meal options that we'd recommend because they're maybe gonna have some whole grains in them, or they're gonna include some vegetables. So like Atkins, Healthy Choice, Lean Cuisine, Smart Made, Smart Ones, even doing like the grilled chicken as opposed to like a breaded or fried chicken, doing like a non-breaded fish. Things like that are going to be more nutritious options. And then you go down, you'll see like lean pockets and like sweet potato fries, some other fries on there. And then at the very bottom are some frozen meal options that are going to be a lot more of our breaded or fried foods. They're just really not offer a lot of food variety. So they're probably not going to have any vegetables on that tray or in that meal. So those would be ones that we'd say buy less often. So things on the green were like keep in your house, offer on a daily basis, buy at the store. Things on the yellow, they might have a little bit of added sugar, added saturated fat, but like, so we'd say go ahead and buy those, but maybe of the yellow, you would eat 2 or 3 total per day. And then things on the red, these are things that we tell parents and caregivers and stuff, try to leave these foods on the shelf at the store. Just try not to bring them in the home. They're the foods that kids prefer. They taste good. They'll have more sugar, more saturated fat, but they don't have a lot of nutritional value to help support their growth. And so sometimes these are foods that kids might gravitate towards when bored or feeling sad or emotional. And it's not that they can't ever have these foods or that you guys can't ever have these foods, but just really kind of try to take a look and think about how many of these red foods are in the home now. And are there alternatives on the yellow or green that we could purchase in place of those red foods? Like fast food here, we talk about like getting a grilled chicken or like a turkey or ham, getting a bowl at Chipotle as opposed to the burrito. The burrito itself is like 300 calories of sugar because it's a carbohydrate. So there's not like a lot of nutritional value coming from that burrito. Adding vegetables to it. So, you get subs, add lettuce, tomato, vegetables, sandwiches, same. You're doing a bowl, make sure you put those veggies in there. And then there are some options to have fruits added on the sides, like I think McDonald's does the apples. Other places will have like little fruit cups, like Chick-fil-A has a fruit cup. Wendy's has a little fruit option for kids as well. So trying to do those in place of fries, or just get a smaller fry size and share it. For grains here, we do encourage whole grains, so whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, brown rice, oats or oatmeal. Sun chips are a whole grain chip, and you can also find like crackers like Goldfish or Cheez-Its, Ritz that are whole wheat options, so have some whole grain in them. This whole grain again is going to have that fiber that I talked about with the fruits and vegetables, which is so important for the insides of our body. And then you can see on the red there, basically if it's white, leave it on the shelf. White rice, white pasta, ramen noodles, white bagels, white bread, things like that. There's not a lot of nutritional value. They strip all the nutrients out. Then they do enrich it. So they add nutrients back in, but you don't get the fiber or the benefit from that. Yogurts, when you're looking at a yogurt, we want the grams of protein to be more than the grams of added sugar. So Greek yogurt in particular is going to have anywhere from 10 to 15 grams of protein typically, and then you just want that added sugar to be less than that. Ideally with added sugar, like when we're looking at our cereals here off to the side, ideally we want added sugar to be 6 grams or less. And that's general rule of thumb for any products like cereals, yogurts, granola bars, trying to think of other common things like drinks, anything in general, we want 6 grams or less. And then 3 grams of fiber or more for like our cereals and granola bars and things. And then up at the breakfast, we kind of talked about with the other handout, but making sure to have that protein and high fiber choice. And then trying to limit some of the more processed ones like Pop-Tarts, toaster strudels, even bacon. Like bacon itself is a saturated fat, but if you did like a turkey bacon or a Canadian bacon, that would be a healthier option in the green. Also doing like a turkey sausage or a chicken sausage is going to put you in the green or yellow as opposed to a regular sausage. Definitely debated on keeping this on there or not, but Calorie King is a website that you can use to look up like nutritional facts on pretty much any food. If you go to Calorie King website and type in a food, whether it's fast food or from the grocery store or, a homemade meal that you make, depending, it doesn't have like all the recipes, but if you're looking for like fettuccine Alfredo, you might be able to find something similar. But it does tell you like the calories, protein, fats, and then carbohydrates. I just put this up there as an example. So, a kid comes home and they want to have like a fudge round and a little bag of Doritos. That itself would be 572 calories and then only 5 grams of protein. Okay, so you can see most of those calories are coming from fats and carbohydrates. Now, I talked about protein being the thing that's going to fill them up, right? So having a fudge round and a Dorito, they might eat it, feel good for a little bit, half hour, hour later, they've digested it, and then they're back in the kitchen. Whereas if we look over here at like having a cheese stick and then 2 cuties or like little mandarin oranges, only 139 calories, but 9 grams of protein. Okay, so lower in fat and carbohydrates. And these foods, because of that fiber and because of that protein, it's going to keep them fuller for longer. Hopefully until the next meal, but it will be more filling and satisfying. It might not taste as good, but it will in the end be a little more filling. And that's why we also use those Stoplight Picks packets too, is, to get, some families, and my family, like myself included, it's like, well, gosh, why aren't they choosing the fruit? Why aren't they eating the fruit and cheese stick? I buy it, it's there. But then I realized, oh, I have like the Oreo cookies and the ice cream also in my cupboard, right? And so then the kids are choosing that instead. So again, if you buy less of those like preferred foods, that is a way to encourage more of these nutrient dense foods too. And then just looking here, I know we had talked about like on the Stoplight Picks packet, like choosing a grilled chicken over a bread or a fried, but like, why is that so much better? If we look here, the crispy chicken sandwich is 570 calories, 28 grams of protein, but 23 grams of fat and 64 grams of carbohydrates. We look at the grilled chicken, it's only 350 calories, has the same amount of protein, but a lot less fat and carbohydrates. So we talk about that disease state, right? Like, how if we cut back on those fried foods and carbohydrates, we can decrease our risk of developing the diabetes, the fatty liver, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, things like that. So those little swaps can really make a big difference in the long run. If fast food is something that is a part of your lifestyle and what you have to do time wise, whatever, there's so many factors that go into it. Just try to make some healthier substitutions when you are eating out. It can make a big difference. And questions? Kind of got through that a little quicker than I thought I would.
Wow,
Just
that
kidding.
was a good amount of very good information. I've learned a lot, especially with having grandkids around and trying to help them make healthy choices. It's not always the easiest. So
Yeah.
thank you, Erica. Very good
Yeah.
information, and we'll post this. It'll be recorded and put on our website so people can go back and look at some of the references you have to information and just those charts and everything I think are very helpful because people don't categorize their food necessarily in those categories and then look at the benefits that outweigh the negative things. So I think those would be very helpful for families to be able to access and look at. Um, let's see, we have people. A lot. It is a struggle to eat healthy, given all the options that people have and the uh, the ability to have something very quick, but not necessarily nutritious. And so I think that's something that people are up to, having to struggle with. And Sandy says, yes, at any age, it is. It's a
Really
struggle at all ages. Yeah, there's
agreed.
so many temptation out there. So we appreciate your presentation and all that good information. And that, I think people are going to be able to take it and use it. It should be, something that they can use. You have to just start somewhere. And so, like you said, making those choices on a meal to meal basis, I think is a good place to start. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me today and being here with me today. It's really great.
So just to be, is it a referral to your, to the obesity and the diet, area? Does it have to be a referral, or can families, make appointments there to have things evaluated?
Yeah, absolutely. So, oftentimes we get referrals from providers, but families can also self-refer, like you said. So you can call, central scheduling to get on our schedule, like through Nationwide Children's, or, I have a number I can type here in the box too. Um, and you can schedule yourself. Now, the only trouble with that is your child does have to meet the criteria, um, to like the 95th percentile or above to be seen in our center. So
So
that would be the
when
only
does that evaluation, when would that evaluation get done? When they
Yeah,
make an appointment?
yeah, so if you have the best place to start if you have concerns is with your primary care provider. Um, and so that would be where they could evaluate where the BMI is. We are not like a primary care office, so we need to make sure that that BMI is above the 95th percentile before coming to our clinic, because we're specialized and we can't like just see everyone for to get a BMI evaluated. Does that make
Okay, well,
sense?
yes, it makes sense, and that's what I wanted to know is if the procedure in order
Yeah.
to get into your clinic, takes that either a referral or some type of an evaluation before, somebody makes an appointment. So that's good to know.
Mhm.
Unless there are no more questions, I'm going to announce our $50 gift card winner, for this month's, meeting, and that person is Billy Welmer. And I know she's been part of our, group for a while, and she has several, grandchildren who she, takes care of. So Miss Welmer, I'll be getting back with you about, getting your information so we can send you that gift card. Anybody have anything else? Miss Dewberry, do you want to go ahead and, close it out?
Yes, I can do that. We'd like to thank you, Erica, for that very informative presentation. We hope that the viewers will use the information to create a healthy future for their young people as they choose wisely.
Glory to God.
It's very difficult
Thank
to
you so much.
choose wisely. And so we thank you again for that presentation, and we look forward to seeing everyone at the next meeting. Please watch your emails for upcoming information regarding that meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody have a good day. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much.
Same.
I appreciate being selected.